Hello, everybody. Hope everyone's all right and that the sound is all right compared to last week. Hmm. And here we are. Welcome aboard to the Wednesday edition of the Shortwave live show. Hope everybody is having a good time. And we are here, of course, twice a week. So let me just position myself so that I feel comfortable, very comfortable. And that is fine. The background, this works. Yep. Okay. Welcome, everybody. This is the Wednesday edition of the live show. We talk about radio. We talk about everything that has to do with radio in general. And we, of course, are live twice a week. So Wednesday is 7 p.m. Eastern. That's why I call it the Wednesday edition, because technically it's the Thursday edition in Universal Time at 0 hours UTC, where a big part of the world is in Thursday now. And we have a shortwave show on Saturday at 3 p.m. Eastern. That's 20 hours Universal Time. Remember that time for the live show never changes in UTC. It's always the same. So eventually we'll have, we're not that far off when we're going to actually, we're not that far off where we're going to actually have a time change. So this is going to be interesting to see that it changes according to the local time, but that UTC never changes. It's always the same. It's just local that changes. And my name is Gilles. I'm located in Montreal, Quebec, Canada, northeast part of North America. We, of course, are here and have fun with radio. And it's always cool to have everybody here. And of course, there's a beautiful chat room where you can actually interact with everybody. A lot of beautiful people that are here to help. You can ask questions. You can just, be yourself here. Nobody pretends to be better than anybody else, and we're just here to have fun with radio, which is the main goal, and that is the main reason why this is such a fun crowd and a fun show to do. And when all of this is over, we have a Facebook group, the official SWL channel Facebook group, where we are more than 1,500 members now. So more than 1,500 members already. Pretty cool. Great people, once again, sharing what they like, sharing to the, their passion for radio in a very friendly and fun way. And once again, it's really, really cool. But it's cool to have all of that, all of those people helping each other, sharing their passion for something that we often say it is a very solitary hobby: radio listening. This show particularly is mostly the for shortwave, medium wave, and long wave. So anything below 30 megahertz, we sometimes do talk a little bit more about higher frequencies. But for that, there's another channel that I will have a live show this coming Sunday, February the 7th, where we will have a VHF UHF show. And that one will be at 21 hours Universal Time. So hope that you enjoy that. And that's on the other channel, the VHF UHF channel. Okay. I've been not been doing a lot of radio in the past couple of days for several reasons. Been quite busy with all sorts of little things, including and the fact also that uh, propagation has not been on our side that much. There's been some pretty good geomagnetic storming going on. We even had a G2 class geomagnetic storm yesterday. So conditions are off and on this week with some quieter moments, but lots of unsettled conditions. And actually, this time of the year, March and it's like September at the equinox, the Earth actually the way that it's positioned in space makes it easier for the solar wind to actually have a lot of disturbances with our geomagnetic field. So you you might have seen that the conditions were not very very good in the past couple of days. They have been spotty at most. Some interesting stuff to listen to. I noticed that north-south signals are pretty good though, and there've been a little bit of stuff there. But east-west signals on Radio Romania was like not there when I tried, and it shows. And a lot of signals are fluttery. It's showing that the ionosphere is really really unsettled right now with what's happening. But hey, it's not going to last forever, and eventually things are going to slowly come back to normal. So hopefully that's going to be interesting. And of course, that all has to do with some solar wind, very fast solar wind, actually 600 kilometers per second or more, even with gusts uh, brushing against our geomagnetic field. And the magnetic field of the Earth has been in in a state of really, really being up to G2. So the classification for magnetic fields, um, magnetic field or geomagnetic storms is G1 to G5. G5 being the strongest storms. So we've reached G2 out of a G5 level, which is it's still it's still going to degrade shortwave listening. But be careful because sometimes it's that time that you just tune around and you hear this signal popping through that you never hear, because it does happen that it enhances some of the signals, especially when they're coming from the south or the north of your position, depending on where you live. It's surprising sometimes how, like for example, here Brazilians will often be stronger, while the east-west signals coming from Europe, for example, will be much weaker. So it's up and down, and it's something to check for. K index was at 3, I think, when I so it's kind of settled down a little bit, but we've been having ups and downs. Let me just take a look here at the information. So the K index as of this moment, well, now it's back at K5. So K5 is a G1 geomagnetic storm in progress. So we're back up at G1 level right now. So check out. It doesn't necessarily mean that shortwave is bad, but it means that it's not necessarily as good as it should be. According to SolarHam, the last report they have is K index of uh, 2. So I don't know if maybe the other, but the aurora zone seems to be quite big. Sorry. So according here, 3-hour data of K index. So the last they have here is 21 hours. They don't have the latest 0 UT index. So let me check out here. Yeah. So anyways, if conditions are a little rough, you'll know why. You'll know why. So Cheers, everybody. I've got vodka and orange juice to make it different this week. Hope that you enjoyed the live show tonight. And we will talk about radio. Okay, Plaus Zero. Nice to have you on board, my friend. And yes, Paul, the official Shortwave cat. And it's really a great picture that I have there that I love to. It's become really the picture to for the live show for sure. Mark Cope, nice to have you on board from Dallas, Texas, WA51530SWL. Bobby Burgess, nice to have you on board from Morgan City, Louisiana, USA. And, there's a lot of idiots out there that don't know what to do and have no life. That's why things like that happen, Bobby. Tim Lewis, nice to have you here from Eastern Long Island. Icadarius, nice to have you on board. Says place where you can see Paul the cat's face. Paul the cat is right now sleeping under my. So he's in the bedroom on the bed, but underneath all the laundry that I dropped on the bed. So it was still kind of warm. So he just like snuck in the pile of laundry, and I was like, okay, I guess we'll actually place all of that later with cat air everywhere. Rob, nice to have you on board from Phoenix, Arizona, USA. How did I get that picture of Paul the cat so close to the mic? Well, you know what? It was totally natural. He climbed on my chair one day, and when the microphone was there, I actually brought the microphone close to him to see if I could do something, if I could actually, get the picture of some sort. And it was cool because when I put the microphone close, he started smelling the microphone. So I guess the bad breath is attracted him. But so he started smelling, so it gave me a chance to actually take a good picture. And I thought, wow, this is cool. It's going to be the official picture now for the live shows. Paul just, it was so natural. So that one of those moments where you got to take it now because a cat is not a dog. With a dog, you can try something and try it 20 times. But with a cat, you have one good pause, one good thing that something that you want to take a picture of. Better do it quick because he ain't going to do it again. Kevin, nice to have you here from New Jersey. Always nice to have you on board. I think last time I'm trying to figure out, but I think last time I said you were from Virginia, which I don't know why. Nice to have you here from New Jersey. Matt, nice to have you on board. Sunny and spring-like in Denver. Here it's still a little cold, but we're supposed to have a warm spell early next week. Temperatures and maybe reaching the 50s. So it's gonna feel good. We had one day with some rain and some really warm weather, and it was nice because it did kind of lower a little bit the amount of snow on the ground, although there's still a lot of it. TVDXer, bonjour, ça va bien? J'espère que tu vas bien toi aussi. 45 unit, nice to have you on board from Florida. Chuck Yunkin, nice to have you on board. Eyebrowler, nice to have you here from Northeast Arkansas. Thomas Array, nice to have you on board from Skip Array. And 2EI, jumping in from New Jersey. Pretty cool to have you on board, Skip. And I wanted to tell you the other day, I didn't have the chance, but I was a big fan of your when I was purchasing Monitoring Times, I was a big fan of your column. I thought it was one of the interesting ones that made me learn so many things. And your presentation there on antennas was also very, very interesting. I liked the way that you just, I like the way that you just say it. Like often I say it, just like when it works, leave it alone. I like that. So nice to have you on board. Matt in Denver, Colorado. Nice to have you here. Aerial imaging. Nice to have you on board. We have Keegan, Northwest Arkansas, XN80Xer, 70 Fahrenheit. Wow, that is go outside with a radio weather. Jeff King, nice to have you on board from Jacksonville, Florida. Brian Penny from Cape Cod, Massachusetts. Joe Loturco, nice to have you here from Rochester, New York, Joe. Ray Carlisi, nice to have you here from New Jersey. Matt, the bulk of this show's viewers in North America. The Wednesday show is mostly North America. The Saturday show sometimes is surprising in the amount of European viewers versus North American viewers. I'd say the Saturday show is sometimes tricky. I'm pretty sure we've had even shows where there are more European viewers than North American viewers at some point sometimes. If I look at the statistics of the channel here, the five biggest countries that watch my videos are in order. The United States first, the UK is second. Then I have, I think it's France is third, Canada fourth, and India is like in the top five, which is kind of interesting. Mitch, nice to have you on board from Buckeye, Arizona. Joe, nice to have you on board from Newmarket, Virginia. Joe Gomez, nice to have you here from San Diego, California. I spy with my little eye. Nice to have you here. Where are you located? Brian Weidenheimer, nice to have you on board. Matt says, doesn't know what's changed exactly, but he's been enjoying the latest release of SDR Sharp more than previous versions. Still needs a notch filter function, though. So, interesting. I have a hard time with SDR Sharp, but, I've been playing around with several different versions of SDR now because of the AirSpy HF Plus. SDR Sharp, SDR Console V3, and of course the RSPDX. I've loaded the RSPDX on SDR Console V3 so that when I test the RSPDX from the SDR Play versus the HF AirSpy HF Plus Discovery, by having them on the same software, at least I have the same audio processing and feel and look. So it's kind of a better way of testing it out than having different software, because the software in SDRs, sorry guys, the software in SDRs don't all process the information in the same way. Northern Dawn, nice to have you on board. Just watched the testing of SpaceX rocket. Rufus Newt, nice to have you here from the Laurentian Valley, Ontario. Canadian radio TV guy. Just spent the past few days working on a 1937 Sears Silvertone tube radio. Only stations I got out of it was WWV on 10 and Brother Stare. Yeah, well, if it's just in the past couple of days with this geomagnetic storming, it might not be performing as good as it could be. Test it out in the next week or next few weeks. You might get more. Gerardo, nice to have you on board from Michigan. Canadian radio TV guy. I've always wondered if you are interested in collecting vintage shortwave tube radios. Totally. It's just I haven't had. Two things are preventing me from actually doing and enjoying that side. I've not had the occasion to necessarily come across some of them at decent prices. I love tube radios, and I love vintage shortwave tube receivers. They are so beautiful and amazing devices. The other thing that is a big problem here is the space that I have, which is very limited. So if I start getting tube radios, I'm gonna go crazy, because I'm already consuming a big chunk of space right now Especially with the old vintage computers that I have, like I've got a working Macintosh Plus with its hard drive from the 80s. I've got a Commodore 128, an Atari 520 ST, a Amiga 500. I've got an old Amstrad PPC portable with LCD screen. Add that to all the radios that I have. It actually means that I am using, and I try not to go. I have my office here. Those that would be here officially in person would probably say, "Wow, that office is quite big for an apartment." It is. This room is actually a big room. I got two big rooms in here in this apartment. The living room is pretty big, and my office is pretty big. The rest of the rooms are pretty small. The kitchen is rather small. The bedroom is small. I don't care. I just sleep and that's it. So the two biggest rooms are here. I try not to, have stuff everywhere in the house because I want to concentrate. Well, this is the office. This is the place where the radios are, but I don't want to have radios on every wall in every room of the house. Let's try to not go crazy here with that, but it's certainly something that I'm interested in. There's a flea market that is about 10 minutes walk from here, 15 minutes walk from here, and there's one guy that has tons of tube receivers, from Alley Crafters to Zenith Transoceanics and so on. I mean, I drool every time I go there. It's just amazing what he's got. And, every time I'm almost tempted at something, and then I start thinking, yeah, but you're going to bring that home. Where are you going to put it? And so on. So, if I had a house, it would be different. I could dedicate, I don't know, I could, do a real big man cave, and who cares? It's my house, would be different than an apartment like here. Chris 66, nice to have you here. Thomas Skipper Ray says 40 was horrible today. And I did listen a lot. I didn't turn on the radio today, but I listened yesterday, and the usual stations I listened to were not very strong compared to what they should be normally. 31 meter band was, yeah. Chaz Stank, nice to have you here from Louisville, Kentucky. Matt says he had pretty decent day of listening today. Actually, had a Radio New Zealand signal of 6115. Voice of Greece 9420 decently earlier this afternoon. Radio Exterior 9690 now. I don't know if I hear 9690 here. Yeah, it is. That's interesting. 9690. Yeah, 9690 actually is not that bad. So Spain is actually making it decent. Just gonna put that volume a little higher here. But Spain decent with some music right now. Jerry DX, nice to have you on board. Snow Peppy, nice to have you here from Nebraska. Canadian Radio TV guy says propagation wasn't great at all yesterday. Looking forward to the next couple of weeks once we get back to the summer schedule. I always pick up lots of good stuff around 01 or 02 UTC in the summer. Laura Robertson, nice to have you on board. Glenn, nice to have you on board. Also, whoops, let me just go back. I lost a little bit of my space here. Space here. Okay. Nice to have Glenn from Tennessee. Tom DX or WPE2QED. Nice to have you here from the Hudson Valley, New York. What else do we have? Yogi, nice to have you here. Totally agree with the north, south, east, west conditions. On 1413 medium wave, I could hear Indonesia rather than normal Oman from Hong Kong. Wow, cool. There is a big change. There was I follow one of the Facebook groups for the medium wave AM radio listening, and there were a lot of people complaining, I think it was last night, of really poor medium wave AM reception. Jonas Tank has homemade root beer. Cool. JRDX, International Space Station changed its flight path at 8 a.m. this morning. So, yeah, but they change the International Space Station changes its path regularly because it is lower orbit than most satellites, and it definitely has a lot of drag from the Earth's atmosphere. Because even though there's not a lot of it, it's still there. So there's drag on the ISS. So they have to correct their orbit very regularly. If you are a satellite tracker and want to listen to satellites and including the repeater on the ISS, remember that the ISS, you need to actually update those elements on the software every few days, because the ISS will not be at the right position. If you use, even using just 2 or 3 week old Keplerian elements in the software, is going to show you the International Space Station at the wrong position compared to what it is actually. So I pretty much always update my elements every single time I use a satellite tracking software. Once again, good evening, Bobby Burgess. Nice to have you on board, WHT Mike. G30 Van Life. Nice to have you on board from Arizona. What else do we have? What else do we have? Yes, a screwdriver, absolutely. Laura Robinson got a Malhit SDR and it rocks, not a clone. Authentic Russian version kicks SDR play and air spy on the MLA30 and U-loop antenna. Cool. Spartan, nice to have you here. VT Radio, nice to have you here. Paul AA1SU from Northern Vermont. Yeah, 28 is we get our jacket off. Tom, nice to have you on board from Monclova, Ohio. Joe from the Chicago area, nice to have you here. Heat Mover, nice to have you on board from Philadelphia. My pleasure, Skipper Ray. It's always been a lot of fun reading everything. You could say that your knowledge helped me through the years. I've seen you many places. There are other spots or other places. I've seen stuff from you also. Well, it's really nice to have you on board, by the way, on the live show here. Norm Akers, nice to have you here from Ohio. Aerial Imaging, Radio Exterior de España, coming in very loud, 9690. Donald E. Smith, nice to have you here from Bermuda. Gordon, nice to have you here from Rochester, New York. Christian Marcoux, bonjour et bienvenue. Nice to have you on board from North Bay, new CIDX club member. When does the monthly newsletter come out? It should be out in the next few days. I've sent in my I have 2 things that I sent in, my utility column and a review of the Texan PL330. Usually the bulletin is out in the first 10 days of every month. It varies depending on how much stuff there is, and Sheldon does all the work, so always takes a certain time for him to, depending on all the other activities that he has. But usually within the first 10 days, it's pretty much always there. Often in the first 5-6 days, it's there. And so be patient. It should be coming in. There are times when the delay also is because of other things, other factors, like they're missing some Some editors have not sent or are sending their columns late, but it shouldn't be too long before it's out. Like I said, I sent my utility column. I sent my utility column on Sunday and my Text and PL 330 review on Monday. So things are working out. Shouldn't be too long, Christian, for this to be there. Tristan, nice to have you here from Newfoundland, Canada. Mojito, nice to have you here from Morgan Hill, California. What else? Matt found Desi are sharp a bit much at first, but the most recent version, which installed from the community package yesterday, sounds better for some reason. I installed the one. Was that the one that's called community package? I installed not just the software itself, but the other one that was offered with all sorts of plugins already pre-installed. It is very different, and even the use and the way that it works is different from what is the original SDR Sharp. Chris66, nice to have you here from Kentucky. And your daughter loves Paul the Cat. I think everybody loves Paul the Cat. Paul the Cat is a little sneaky in the last couple of days because he goes outside. And I need to find out where he does that because he's able to get out of the yard in the back, which usually he can't because the snow in the summertime, he goes on. There's like 3 spots that he can go under the fence in the neighbor's yard. So that's not a problem because he can come back from the same path. But in the past 2 weeks, he's been going out. And then at some point, somebody knocks at the door. And it's because Paul the Cat is outside in the front door. And he wants to come in, but he can't come back from the way that he actually came out. So I've been looking at where the hell does he where does he pass? Where does he find a path to get out? But obviously he can't come back when that happens. Gypsy, nice to have you on board from Thailand. Nice to have people from everywhere around the world. David, KJ4CMY from Central Georgia. Livy Nathan, nice to have you here from Israel. Paul, nice to have you here from Michigan. Joe has ordered a PL 330. You're going to love it. Joe Samaranhuas, nice to have you here from Brazil. We have Mike, WDX50, nice to have you on board from Northwest Arkansas. Always cool to see everybody coming back and having fun with radio. What else do we have? Let me just go down, try to catch up with time. I'm not that far off. I'm 10 minutes behind, guys. Chastang says the radio room is more important than sleep. Hey, I sleep. I only sleep. So why should it be a big room? TVD Exorcist WCBS on 880 is so tonight. So it could be the effects. Ronald, nice to have you here from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, listening on the St. Jean ATS 909X2. You like it? Give us your impressions. Cyberflyer1, nice to have you here from England. Gypsy says, wow, I used to listen to shortwave radio, but this channel is clear sound. Mickey Dalmage, nice to have you here from Sherwood Park, Alberta. Well, you guys deserve warm Sherwood Park, Alberta. I mean, you guys really had a cold spell for the past few weeks. That's for sure. Fast Load, nice to have you here from Montreal. Tim in Texas, nice to have you on board. Did Grundig make a good shortwave radio? When Grundig was officially Grundig with radios made in Germany, they made some of the best receivers ever. I have a one here, which is in the back of the just squeezed in the back there that I need to take out one day and show a little more. I can see it here just behind the speaker. That's a That's a Grundig from 1969, which is the satellite transistor 6001, which is an amazing, amazing piece of equipment from the good old days. And a lot of the Grundig radios over time were amazing devices. But do not be fooled on modern Grundig branded stuff. It's not made, it's made in China by other companies. The only thing that it actually has is the name. It doesn't share the quality of what Grundig used to be. Even though there are quite a few, there's a few radios that are nice, but overall, you're not getting any real Grundig brand that used to be done by them. The last few Grundigs that were really good were in the 90s. The Yacht Boy series were pretty nice portables, very decent receivers. I had a Grundig Yacht Boy for 100 that I really, really enjoyed. Cyberflyer 1, I couldn't help but notice the speaker behind your chair, the same as I have for the DX160. No, I do not have a DX160, but I did. This speaker here has been sent to me by Michael Thompson, one of the viewers and one of the guys on the Facebook group. He wanted to send me a couple of things, so he sent me a nice speaker, President brand speaker, and he sent me this very nice speaker here. He actually does a lot of modifications on equipment, so he did some audio modifications to make it even better. And so they're here, and they will be plugged in and used for sure, because I just am so happy to have those. Really, really nice to see this. So it's definitely a good old realistic. They call it a communication speaker. Joey, nice to have you on board. Says looks like there are even less Brothers Dare broadcasts. Yeah, maybe. I actually don't hear that much Brothers Dare. There's a lot of other things, and I've compared to, if we would compare Brothers Dare broadcasts in 2021 right now compared to, say, a year or two ago, they're definitely less broadcasts than from him overall, even though he does still have a lot of hours on stations. It seems that we hear more diversity out of, for example, WRMI. Ça fait plaisir, Christian Marcoux. C'est une passion. Il faut avoir la passion pour pouvoir faire tout ce que je fais. And the rest of the show is going to be in French now. and you guys gonna leave. Canadian radio TV guy. He's pretty old and frail, and it's probably getting hard. Yeah, that's for sure. That part of it is that, and we're not gonna miss him when he's gone. That's for sure. I don't think we will. William Helms, nice to have you here from Florida. Alembic 65, nice to have you on board from Ohio. Across the lake from Ontario. Let's try to catch up here. Simon Templar, nice to have you here. What do we have? Jose Rosas Astudillo. Nice to have you on board. ¿Cómo está, mi amigo? And where are you from? Vintage Kenzo. Nice to have you here from Alberta on the radio. When doing auto scan on shortwave, do you know why it skips over certain frequencies? Because most of the auto scans are for international broadcast bands. more than anything else. So we'll jump over. Vince, salut, j'espère que tu vas bien. Just from outside of Montreal in de Montagne. Canadian Radio TV Guide does vaguely remember Brother Stair announcing his last show and that the world would end. Yeah, that reminds me of that pastor at WYFR that had announced that the world would end, and I don't know when. Matt has Radio Slovakia very good on 5850. Let's check that out. W5850. Yeah, not too bad. Much weaker on 7780 though. At 5850.
According to Drahoslava Výbochova, usually the favorite part is watching the
Radio Slovakia. That's from WRMI transmitters in Florida.
Our planetarium is digital, and it's one of the most modern planetariums in Slovakia. And I dare to say it has one of the best screens around.
Not bad.
We are regularly
5850.
our offer of screenings in the planetarium so that we can address various groups of visitors. The kids like watching.
I've started being a big fan of Radio Prague, the afternoon broadcast here, local afternoon, which is 21 hours Universal Time, because, first of all, signal's always great. So 21 to 21:30, Radio Prague is via WRMI on 15770 in English. And I usually listen to the full hour because at 21 UTC, 4 p.m. local here, it's the English 30 minutes. And after that, they have the French 30 minutes. So it gives me a full hour of Radio Prague, English and French, that I enjoy listening at 21 to 22 UT. It's now become kind of my afternoon listening experience. Every time that I see 21 hours UT come by, I was like, oh, Radio Prague, time to listen to Radio Prague. RJ88 Dakota, nice to have you here. Danny Shortwave Radio DX, nice to have you on board from Yonkers, New York. Aerial imaging, I simply split off a receive antenna connection to be able to receive with it on 2 radios. I notice you've gone to the trouble to get a powered multi-adapter to share your radios on the MLA30. So here's the thing. You can share simply, and I've done that a few times, simply by having the same connector on multiple other connectors for different radios. It works, but there are drawbacks to that. Some radios will interact with others when you do that, first of all. So it can happen that 2 radios, for example, here, when I did that, I noticed that when I would plug my St. with my St. ATS 909X at the same time that I would plug in my Texan PL 990X. As soon as I would plug the 990X, the signal would go down on that ATS. There's an interaction that was happening between both radios. So it can be done in a very simple way. For a lot of radios, it works. It can happen that one radio will actually give interference to another one, depending on the circuit. So just beware that could happen. There could be interactions between the 2 radios when you do that. The reason I purchased yes, it's expensive. A lot of people said, well, it's expensive, that antenna multicoupler that you have. But honestly, I'm very happy. And for me, it's important that it exists, that I have that. I'm not selling that multicoupler necessarily to everybody, because what I mean is I am in a different game. I do YouTube videos. I compare radios. I might have several radios running at the same time. They have to have the same antenna and not have any interaction with each other, so that my results of a test, for example, will be good, will be clear. So for me, that antenna coupler is a must. And actually, I've got the one with 4 ports. I almost wish I got one with 6 or 8 because now I'm seeing all the possibilities with it, and it's just great. But I'm in a different game. I'm the guy that you are looking at videos and will take a decision maybe on what radio I'm going to purchase based on what I'm talking about. So I have to have the tests done and the most the best way possible that the results aren't flawed. And that's why I purchased that. But for a simple sharing aerial imaging, you try it and see the results. And if you have multiple radios, just watch for the interaction. When you plug one and another at the same time, watch. Sometimes there could be an interaction, not always. But I'm in the like I said, I'm in a different game. Uh, what else do we have? What else do we have? Skip Parade says, I think the Yacht Boy 400 was the last good grinding. I'm not sure there was anything after that. There was a series of Yacht Boys at that period of time. There was the 400, the 500. There were kind of a few that were all pretty decent. I got that Yacht Boy. So, funny story on the Yacht Boy 400 is that I had read, I think it was in the Passport to World Band radio somewhere in the 90s, that I had read that that radio was a good one for a portable. And I wanted one. And it's a funny story. When I had a period of time when I was not working in the 90s for a few months. And of course, no work equals no radios. That pretty much goes together because no work equals you just have to pay for the food and the rent and the minimum required stuff. Um, when I got it, when I got a job, when I found a job after a couple of months, and the first paycheck came through, um, I remember going downtown and it's like, well, you know what, I'm gonna enjoy my first paycheck, and go downtown and do a few things. And back then, there were almost no more any. There was pretty much no radio stores anymore. You had these mainstream electronics chains of stores that would sell, TVs and Wi-Fi systems and stuff like that. And I went to a place, and I'm trying to remember the name. I went to a place that sold Wi-Fi and TVs only. And the hope they might have a shortwave radio in there to see what they've got. And when I got in, I was so surprised to see that in the display, they had a Yacht Boy 400. Now, I knew that the Yacht Boy 400 was sold in Canada for about 200. They were selling the one, they were selling it at 249. And I remember I told the guy, I said, look, most of the places in Canada that have it, they sell it for 199 bucks. If you can match that price, I'll buy it from you right now. The guy looked at me and said, okay, 199 bucks, it's yours. And when I paid, he said, you know what? I'm giving it to you at now 199 for a very simple reason. We were trying to get rid of it because nobody would ever want to buy it. It was the only one they had. And they wanted to get rid of it because it's like, nobody wants that. We don't want it anymore. We don't even want it also in the store. So it's like, okay, well, I'm a happy guy. I'm a happy guy, And he said, does that thing really hear the world? And I said, "Oh, you'd be surprised at how many stations this can pick up. It's very surprising. It's one of the good radios." He said, "Huh, okay." And I remember I went back 2, 3 times in the following months and years. They never had a multiband radio ever again. I think they were kind of scared of being stuck with it and not being able to sell it at all. Maybe I could have gone lower than 199 and he would have said, "It's yours." But I was happy. I was a happy camper. I was coming home with a Grande Yacht Boy 400. I don't have it in my collection here because when I purchased the Radio Shack DX398, which is the original Sangean ATS 909, it was on sale at Radio Shack, but it was still like a 200 and some, I think it was a $249 radio or something like that. They would sell it for a much higher price, anyways. And I was a little short on cash, and I was looking at it. It was on sale. I was like, yeah, well, that's the time. Radio Shack. Everybody at Radio Shack that went to Radio Shack knew. We all knew the same thing. You spot something you want, you wait for it to be on sale because it will be on sale at some point. So we would all wait for the stuff. So I see a radio. I was like, okay, it's 400. I'm going to wait when it's on sale. The Radio Shack DX398 was, I believe, 200. I'm think it was $299 in Canada. And when I went to Radio Shack one day, it was $229. I think they dropped it to $229. I said, "Oh, okay, maybe it's the time to buy one." But I was a little short, so I was like, yeah, even $229. Okay, that's tough to afford $229. My uncle that repairs TVs and radios actually came over for a visit that weekend. And he saw the Yacht Boy 400, and I tuned it around him because, he repairs TVs and radios since he would repair this since I think he started repairing them in the 50s. So he knew what shortwave was all about. And he was looking for a little portable radio that was neat, that was good. And what he did is he looked at it, and I started tuning around and everything. And he looked at me and said, "Wow, that's the kind of little radio I would like." And he looked at me and said, "You're not selling it?" And I'm like, "Okay, well, how much you want to pay for it?" And he said, "If I give you $85, will you be happy?" And at $85, I thought, well, 85, I now have the money anyways at 85 to buy budget, and I have the money for the Radio Shack DX398. So I thought, okay, 85, and I'm getting the DX398. And so that's the story of the Yacht Boy 400. Unfortunately, my uncle died of somewhere in 1990, I don't know, mid-90s maybe, somewhere there. Unfortunately, my uncle passed away maybe a year and a half, 2 years after, from cancer. It was very, very, very quick. He found out he had cancer, and it was already at the end. And I never had the courage to ask if I can I you bought that for me. Can I have it back? And I'll give you the money back. I don't mind. I'd like to have it back. But it was like, you're not at the funeral home and it's like, can I have my radio back now? You don't, it's not something that is socially acceptable, I think. So anyways, I don't know where it is. It probably, disappeared with a lot of the stuff that he had. And today, thinking about it, I would never have sold it, honestly. But I remember it was a decent radio. Robert Cross, nice to have you on board. Sandman X, nice to have you on board. Yeah, having children is a tough. It's a full time job. Nice to have you back. Canadian radio TV guy. Well, yes, Brother Stare does sound bonkers pretty much. I like the morning sessions. I like the morning sessions. They are great. I came across one of the morning sessions. I think it was yesterday. What else do we have? What else do we have? Let's go down here. Just Trembelling Mr. Bale, nice to have you here. Blind Picker, nice to have you here. Rob, W0RAB. And Connect Ticket. Canadian TV guy. If those hours of airtime are just reruns, there's going to be a lot of freed up airtime. Yeah. Well, let's try to have a lot of relays of something. Yes, of course, Robert Cross, you are allowed to share your shortwave listening on Facebook group. Absolutely. Yogi, Supreme Master TV is not overtaken Brother Stare yet. Yeah, it's close, hey? Brother Supreme Master is almost everywhere. I think I'm almost wondering if there's not a 24-hour schedule of Supreme Master TV. To be honest, of course, it's easier to listen to Supreme Master TV than the Brother Stare, but at the same time, darn, that Supreme Master TV kind of creeps me out at times. Makes me think of the Armstrong Likio group in Japan that I have a QSL card with that guy that put the sarin gas in the subway. Sometimes when I listen to Supreme Master, I have the impression of a same kind of nut group or something. What else do we have? Picking up a zigzag signal on 67625. Don't know if it's local noise or actual transmission. What I do, because that's a question that is interesting sometimes, I get people saying, how would you notice if a signal is local or not? And my answer to that is always, well, if a signal is local, usually it doesn't have propagation characteristics. So, if you listen to a signal and the signal moves up and down in a shortwave-like fashion, like listening to a shortwave station, because of the propagation, then it's probably from far away most of the time. But when you hear a signal and S meter is always, stuck, or the signal level is always stuck at the same level, never moves even one bit, and you have some local stuff. Hey, Joe, nice to have you on board. And well, it's I would guess after April. I'm waiting for the comeback of the for the inscription that I made for the ham license. So I guess we'll be waiting for that. Randy, Riverside, California, nice to have you here. Jose Pisano, nice to have you on board from Lima, Peru. Pretty cool. What else do we have? Lou Braga, nice to have you here. K3PP New York. Good to see you at the fest. What can you tell me about CIDX? Canadian International DX Club is a general radio club that has a monthly bulletin called The Messenger that has tons of information about radio. It's not just international broadcast. It's also utilities, amateur radio stuff. It's anything that's happening about radio. There's a lot of information in there. It's a great bulletin. You are at the same time part of a club. It's not because CIDX is the Canadian International DX Club that it's only for Canadians. There's a lot of information in there that is for everybody around the world, and it's really a great little publication to check out every month electronically, and it's inexpensive. You can, if you have not asked for a sample copy, you can ask for a sample copy. Just send a little note to Sheldon at cidxclub@yahoo.com, and he's going to send you a sample copy. You can check out if you like the bulletin. And if you do, well, it's not very expensive. $10 for a year, $25 for 3 years membership. And the membership goes to paying all sorts of little things that happen. For example, we have a monthly Zoom meeting. Zoom isn't free, so the membership helps pay the cost of the Zoom meeting for the for the meetups, and all sorts of little things. There's get-togethers, often a summer barbecue thing, and things like that. So it's a great little club, and it is really, really full of information, honestly. Artist Alley Crafter's Kitchen. Nice to have you on board from Massachusetts. No longer able to watch YouTube on my Apple TV 3G. The app no longer works on older devices. Forced to spend $150 to get the 4K version. Wow. Yeah, the anything that uses an app for streaming on YouTube, at some point the app doesn't work anymore, unfortunately. Magazine 1976. Nice to have you here from West Michigan. What do you have? What do you have? Laura Robertson received a cross-country wireless HF, VHF, UHF multi-coupler from the UK. Cool. Cyberflyer 1. John McClure, nice to have you here. Tim in Texas, I've had time to look at the new Sangean 909X2. Wonder if it's an improvement. The first batch was not impressive at all, but the price here in Canada would be 500 Canadian dollars to get one. So I'm not planning to purchase one of them. I don't think it's worth it at that price for me. And I don't know. It's hard to. We'll have to. The real test will be with somebody that has the 909X and X2 and compares them together. That will be the best test to see have they fixed some of the bugs and some of the things that were a problem. Plus, they're supposed to have a new batch coming out. Hopefully, they fix some of the problems that I've seen a lot of users complaining about, including the frequency display that's a little out of it's 1 or 2 kilohertz off, which should not be, honestly, for a radio of that price. John Simon Ritchie says, I used to be in the Radio Prague Shortwave Listeners Club many years ago. No, but I was at the my radio club experience was Radio Budapest. I was a Radio Budapest Shortwave Club member. Matt, managed to get my multi-coupler's noise down. I don't know if it's position or if the transmitter cord it came with is less noisy than the 12-volt battery pack I was using. Oh, that's interesting because I have pretty much no noise on it in the multi-coupler, and I use their 12-volt. I use their 12-volt power supply that they included with it. How late am I, John McClure? We started at 0 UTC, 7 p.m. Eastern. So Aerial Imaging says I just want my Drake plugged in at all times and also a floating plug with a 1/8 mono jack adapter to be able to plug. Try it out. You'll see. You'll see if it works well or not. You know. Skip, that may have been my review of the Yachtboy 400 you read. Totally possible. Totally possible. I remember before I got it, I was drooling. I was like, well, I want to have one of those. They look good. But it's totally possible, Skip. I wouldn't be surprised. I was reading every single thing that I could read on radios and on. When I spotted a radio I wanted, I would probably read every single review I could find, any comments I could see. I was a complete nut. I still am a complete nut, but I was reading everything. So I wouldn't even be surprised that I did read your review of it for sure. Mike WDX50 out of the Yachtboy 400. It's a nice. It has a nice internal ferrite antenna, great for medium wave. Cool. So Cyberflyer One also was a Radio Budapest Shortwave Club member. I was totally. RJ88 Dakota Grunning used to make a good amount of Wi-Fi systems with shortwave bands in them. I liked looking at them in the store displays. Sure wish I could have taken it home. Yep. Yeah, it's not going to stay here forever, the beer, John McClure. Eventually, it's going to disappear because I can already see that when it gets warmer, this thing is going to make me crazy. And it's mostly an experiment. I'm just trying to see what I look like and what it does. But eventually, one day I'll show up here with short air and just a very short trimmed beer. And what I don't like is it does make you feel like look older because my hair is not gray or anything, but my beard is really, has a lot of white in it. So yeah. I think it's eventually it's gonna disappear. Canadian Radio TV guy says there's something eerie about Brothers Stare broadcast, especially the phone in broadcast. Everyone sounds panicky over the phone against the quiet background humming as Stare speaks into the mic. Yeah, that in the morning sessions, they're just so weird. Danny Shortwave says, I need to dust off the Grundig Yachtboy 400. I bought mine 2 years ago from eBay around $30. Works good. Cool. Maybe I should look at one of those on eBay. Who knows? Unfortunately, it's harder and harder to find something on eBay that's used at a decent price. Unfortunately, it's really tough. What else do we have? Well, I'm gonna check it out. Lots of Yachtboy 400s for less than $50. Maybe I could, Bluegrass Dan, my thoughts on the DX398. So the Radio Shack DX398, actually, it's looking at me. It's there on the shelf. Is what was the original St. Gian ATS 909. The main reason I purchased it back then is it seemed to have decent reviews, and it was a decent radio. I was attracted by its size. It was bigger than the Yachtboy 400, for example. Its display also was bigger. So there's a lot of little things in there that were very attractive for me on that radio. And so when I purchased it, I was happy. I mean, I liked it, but I very, very fast, I know noticed that the antenna was a little deaf and not up to par with radios that I owned. Um, of course, on long wire outside, that it was actually good, but on its telescopic, it wasn't as good, which is a complaint that a lot of people had actually. And but apart from that, it was decent. Mine suffers what a lot of the DX398 slash ATS 909 actually have. The original one has a flaw. The speaker is that problem right now. It would need to have a change of speaker inside because the speaker sounds totally crap. But when I use it, I haven't used it in a long time. I need to take it out and maybe share videos. And maybe it's time to use that realistic communication speaker with it. The radio itself is nice. It's fairly precise in its tuning and everything. I really liked it, but it's a little deaf on the telescopic, and that has not been fixed. That's why the X2 is kind of I'm wondering, because when the 909X, which was the follow-up, and I have the 909X here, came out, I was surprised that they did not fix the deafness of the telescopic. And apparently, what some have been saying is that the telescopic is the way that the radio's made. The radio's telescopic is kind of mismatched and it doesn't perform well. But on long wire, it's great. It works great. It makes a great receiver. So, if you do come across an original ATS 909 DX398, make sure that the speaker works, because that's one of the biggest problems it has. And, well, you know what? First batch of 909X2, I see a lot of negative reports on it. So, doesn't make me want to get an X2, honestly. Alembic 65 Supreme Master has its own Roku channel. Well, Northern Dawn, I wonder if Radio Garden is available on the Fire Stick. I don't know. Kevin Wood, nice to have you here. Aerial Imaging is Supreme Master TV a cult? I heard a very bizarre broadcast once. Yeah, it's a cult. It is a cult, absolutely. So it's kind of a gang of, their broadcasts are very. I listened to it a couple of times just to kind of grasp what it is, and the promoting how to be we should all be vegans and save the planet and everything, and it's a little too extreme for my side. It's fine that you want to be a vegan, but please, I like my bacon, and I still like my bacon and want my bacon. I will not be a vegan tomorrow morning, that's for sure. But it's okay, but it's definitely a cult, absolutely. But that Shinrikyo cult in Japan, their shortwave broadcasts were rather simple and full of wisdom, and let's just all be in sync with the planet. So that too was not, when they had that attack in the Japan subway, in the Tokyo subway, you would not have expected that from that cult, from the way that they were preaching stuff. That's why I say Supreme Master sounds a little. Maybe it's because of the Shinrikyo experience. It sounds a little scary and bizarre at times, that I'm just like, not sure. Paul, on SDR console, when our receive radio or WRMI, for example, the signal is good, but the volume goes way down, like it is being muted or something. it sounds a little better on synchronous AM mode. What am I overlooking here? That's interesting. So you say that the audio goes down on SDR console. Let me think about it. What could be happening? What could be happening? Make sure the AGC is set right. Automatic gain control. I'd look at that. I find it real weird. Anybody have an idea? So I'm trying to think at what you could check. Anybody have an idea of what he should check for that? Kevin Wood. Oh man, I would not buy an SDR or a shortwave radio on Wish. That's for sure. Yogi says, go to a good QSDR tune to a non-local signal on shortwave. Yeah. Richard, nice to have you here. Good time listening to the oldies last night on WTWW, even through cloudy skies. You know, I will confess that sometimes I do go and listen to WTWW on 5085 and go onto their website, WTWW.us, and put a couple of my requests and listen all night and hear my requests play back. 5085. Let's check it out if it's coming in right now. Yeah. With some music. 5085 coming in, not too bad. The Wind 1960 coming in from Ventral, New York. Central New York. Nice to have you on board. Simon Templar says I can hear it on 5850 on the display FTDX10 Yesu here at work. Danny Shortwave says I'm not pulling the trigger on the Sangean ATS 909 X2. We'll pass on that one too. So yeah, because when you listen in to, you know, what distorts a shortwave signal, Yogi's talking about how the fading is different from one side to the other. You know, sometimes one of the reasons why signals are distorted on shortwave, it happens that the way this shortwave, this propagation acting on the signal, sometimes fades one sideband more than the other. There's all sorts of weird things happening in there, and sometimes that will distort. Matt says, regarding my multicoupler, yeah, saw a big boost of noise the first time I used it, but it was using the battery pack. I need to actually do some tests and see if it was it, or if so, not use that. Yeah, you know what? One of the things that I sometimes wonder, you know, battery packs could technically be noisy. And the battery inside often is lithium ion that's at 3 point some volts, like 3.7 volts, but the USB ports, for example, will need to be need to be 5 volt. And so there's a kind of an up convert going in there. So there's a few things like that sometimes you got to be careful. I use the power adapter that they included with the multicoupler here. When I take out the antenna, the outdoor antenna, there's pretty much no noise. It's hasn't added, or it doesn't change. I even kind of bypassed to see if I could see a difference, and it's very quiet. So Ronald says he's got the 909X2 and it's not off frequency. Okay. because it's not necessarily that easy to see. You don't see it off frequency by using single sideband. You see it off frequency by ear when you actually tune an AM signal on shortwave. My 909X is off by 1 kilohertz. I can tell you that. And I've seen at least 5 or 6 reports of people on the shortwave listening website that's returned it because they said, well, off frequency, 1 or 2 kilohertz. So maybe it's not all of them. Maybe they have some kind of quality control issue, and some of them are okay, and though others are not. So that's interesting. Danny Shortwave, yes, I did receive the famous drive for my Commodore after so many months of waiting. I received it last week, and been enjoying playing tons of Commodore games. But I got there's I'm having a hard time with a lot of the images that I need to run. I don't know. It's possibly the images themselves that have problems, because a lot of the games that I wanted to try, like for example, I wanted to try replay Maniac Mansion. So I downloaded an image of Maniac Mansion, and of course, I know that there's that little the way that you have to deal with it so that you can actually have multi-disc capability, and that's fine. I can switch between discs and everything, but a lot of the games don't load properly. So I'm wondering if it's because it differs just enough in its the way it works that it actually the games, some games have a hard time with the way the drive acts, or it's simply the images, because that's the other thing also. When you download images off the internet, is the image okay or not? So anyways, I'll be checking that out, because I played multi-disc games. I played Winter Games, which is one that I played so much over the years, and I mean, I just switch between the discs and it works perfectly for the Winter Games from Epix. So I need to check that out. There's a lot of the games work fine, but I have some games that don't. So I'll download other images of the games, and maybe it's just the image that's a problem also. Dennis, the Satellite 700 from 1996, a pretty decent portable. Mark Brando, 9955 radio Amatalk program on 95 on WRMI. Let's see if I can hear it over here.
Really doesn't help me much. Okay, let's start with emails received after our compilation
Good
program
signal.
transmitted by channel 292 on 6070 and 9670 kilohertz on the 1st of February on the occasion of their 10th birthday. Greetings to Francisco Rubio Cubo in Spain, Andreas Tiemann in Switzerland, Emmanuel Nicodeme in France, Francesco Paroli in Italy, Kostiantin Pravatov in the Ukraine.
Gerardo says, I have a 75 feet long wire antenna with another cable grounded in my house copper water line. If I put an AC voltmeter across the ground and the antenna, I read between 4.7 and 5.5 volt AC normal. Yeah, it's kind of a distortion. It's not necessarily, even the reading is probably not good. You will, in fact, always see a voltage there. First, the copper, there's an interaction because the copper water line is also often used for the grounding of the electricity. And so there could be an interaction. Remember, a wire antenna outdoors, the wind, the snow, there's all sorts of little interaction. There's always kind of your multimeter is always going to show kind of a voltage. This is where, by the way, when you check voltages, there are two ways to check voltages. You have the digital multimeters, and you have the old style analog multimeters. one thing to know is that the old style analog multimeters do not react in the same way as a digital multimeter when you actually check for voltage, for example. The digital multimeter will show voltages sometimes that are almost kind of ghost voltages that a analog multimeter will not, because the analog multimeter, if you check 12 volts, it needs a real 12 volts to show you that there's 12 volts. In a digital multimeter, because the circuit is not made in the same way, it is more sensitive, but it also will show all sorts of readings that are not necessarily always correct. So if a analog multimeter shows you 5 volt, I might be scared. If a digital multimeter shows you some voltages like that, it's probably more like ghost. I call it ghost electricity, because it's kind of some interaction. The problem isn't necessarily the voltage, by the way, when you have antennas. It's really the amps, the amount of current that is in there. What you should do is put your multimeter to measure amps and measure the amps or the milliamps between the wire antenna and that copper water line. That should be very close to zero, if not zero itself. If that's the case, it's all right. Voltage doesn't necessarily mean anything if there's no current, and especially on a digital multimeter. Does Paul prefer French or English? He likes meow. Actually, I think Paul just understands very specific words and specific things. So because I always speak to him in French, if he has a vocabulary that he understands, it will be probably French. But if it's for the rest, it's like, I don't never speak to him in English, so he probably doesn't understand. Randall Kluntz, nice to have you here from Chicagoland. Matt, is that bacon or Canadian bacon, Joe? Canadian bacon. Bo Schwartz, nice to have you here. And the wrench icons are moderators, absolutely. So that idiots have no time to do anything, because everybody just, removes them as fast as we can. Hey, bacon is bacon. I don't care if it's American, if it's Canadian. All I want is bacon. Bubba says, I'm not a vegan. I need to travel back to Schwartz for the smoked meat sandwiches in Montreal. Yeah, I haven't been there since the 90s, probably. Last time I went to Schwartz was with my brother. And I can tell you that was in the 90s, at least. I haven't been there in like 25 years. Simon Templar started with the Radio Shack DX440, a rebadged ATS 803A, and then bought the ATS 818 non-cassette version. Cool. A lot of us started with Radio Shack radios, honestly. How many of us? A lot of us. Radio Shack was really, really the place where a lot of our hobby started for a lot of us. It was, they were everywhere. I mean, Radio Shacks were everywhere. Bacon in England, I have no idea if bacon in England is the same as the Canadian bacon, honestly. So everybody's craving for bacon now. Bacon, lettuce, and tomato sandwich. So you're half vegan. You should call their show and say, "Hey, thanks to you, I'm half vegan, because I had a bacon sandwich, but with lettuce and tomato on it. Bluegrass Dan says SDR console, IF gain, AGC, and video display gain needs to be checked. Okay, because I'm curious about that sound going real low, especially with a strong signal. What else do we have? What else do we have? Canadian bacon equals McDonald's. No, the one I buy isn't like McDonald's, I can tell you that. Welcome to the bacon chat. What do you do in the morning? I listen to the radio with my bacon. Mark Schmidt, nice to have you here from Maine. Aerial imaging, do you have to be concerned with radios on the same line interacting with each other if only one is powered on at a time? The thing is that you shouldn't be too worried in general with interactions between two radios that are on the same feed line. But in terms of overloading the in cases where you could overload the input, I think what mostly you got to be careful here is that even when a radio is off, if there's too much RF going into it, you can still have problems. Don't worry too much about it, honestly. Vince says bacon and radio, it goes together. Most of the reception I got sounds like frying bacon. Richard, how much will my signal be degraded using a 75 ohm transformer connected to a 50 ohm coax feeding my 50 ohm shortwave input? On shortwave, there won't be that much of a difference. On shortwave, the mismatch usually doesn't result in much of a problem or much of a change. It shows more at the higher frequency ranges. And it will on shortwave for transmission. If you are mismatched and transmit, that will show. But at reception, 75 to 50, you won't see much of a problem, honestly. Richard has a t-shirt says, if you don't like bacon, you're wrong. Oh, man. What drives me nuts here, we have a certain amount of idiots that are right now kind of raiding butcher shops and breaking their front windows because they are against the the fact that we eat meat. And I mean, you look at that and I'm like, yeah, we should go and go to those those vegan shops and just break everything. Come on. Live and let live. If we like our meat, we like our meat, but don't impose veganism on us. Northern Dawn always wanted an Amiga. It's a great machine. My Amiga 500 is just so cool. Even today, it's still cool. Danny Shortwave, cool. I just received a Wi-Fi modem for Commodore 64. It's pretty cool connecting to the internet with the C64. There's some BBS you can connect. Cool. That's cool. What else do we have? Yogi, Radio New Zealand Pacific back on 13730 from 0359 to 0658. So slowly we're getting into the equinox. I'm hoping for my summer Radio New Zealand listening again. Aerial imaging. I'm surprised Paul doesn't make more appearances on the show. I can't sit at a desk for 5 minutes without a cat wanting to walk around. You know why? Because at the times that I do my live shows, Very often it's the times that he's napping. So that's why he's not here. Because before the show, he was on my lap for at least 25 minutes. And that happens quite often every day. And he's got two spots that he sleeps right now: the bedroom under under some, if I leave a t-shirt or whatever there is, he's going to go under it, or here in his chair just in front of me. But often what he does is in the daytime, he spends most of the time in that chair, but at nighttime, he goes in the bedroom. He wants to kind of have a more quiet condition. Jordan Dawn used a Sinclair computer. Wow. And Super Nintendo. Keegan says, my first radio is the Radio Shack 12795 on Christmas 2000. It all started everything. Robert Cross, when are they releasing 909X2 new batch? I've read somewhere that April or May is the next batch that's supposed to have some fixes. So I don't know. Keegan says, my first digital tuning and digital display radio Shack DX402 from the early 2000s. There's other Crafters Kitchen, Radio Shack DX200 prices on eBay continue to climb. Got mine at Goodwill for next to nothing before prices went nuts. I mean, I wouldn't buy these old radios for at a high price. I would not. They're nice. They're good looking and everything, but I would not pay, $150 for a DX200. That's nonsense. I mean, come on. Ralph Grandin, as a kid in the 70s, I used to love the Radio Shack battery a month club card. Went every month and picked up a free battery. Salesman hated me. Well, mine didn't. My Radio Shack, they didn't hate me because they actually were really good. As I would go and get that battery, I would drool over stuff that I would buy probably in the next weeks after that. And I would always get the 9-volt battery because, I mean, what else are you going to do with other, 1AA or 1D or 1C cell? Nothing. So it's like I would take the 9-volt battery all the time. Oh, man, I remember that. Oh, man. 29PU04. Does my radio love me? I hope so. If you take care of it. Eat Mover. Love bacon. Save the bacon fat to cook hamburgers in. Dwayne, nice to have you on board. Dmitry Larinovich, nice to have you on board. David says, how come veterinarians don't eat meat? I don't know. What else do we have? Thomas Olson. Come on, everybody. We're going to force to go out tonight and get a BLT. Let's all go to our local burger shop and get some burgers with bacon, extra bacon, and bring our shortwave radios and show everybody. Vince says, I guess I'm not going to make any friends here, but bacon should never be crispy. If you eat it crispy, you're wrong. I like it. Honestly, I think it's a personal thing for a lot of people. I don't like it crispy. I like it still a little, when it gets too crispy is where I don't like it, actually, personally. I like it, kind of cooked, but still, kind of pretty mellow. What else do we have? We've gone from radio to bacon. That's kind of interesting. Paul says, recently found out about making bacon in the oven on parchment paper. Life-changing experience. Yeah, that's great. I use parchment paper all the time for everything. For two reasons. Of course, nothing sticks on that, but also because you just throw away the parchment paper and whatever you use to cook is clean. It's the perfect setup Fubar Snafu. ICOM ICR 700. Still good to buy. If you get a decent price. Old ICOMs, old Kenwoods are great radios. If they're in working condition, they're great radios. Yogi, if I were to buy a new radio now, I would go for something more exotic like the Belka DX. Danny Shortwave, do not microwave bacon. Let's give our tips on how to cook bacon tonight. The Export, nice to have you from Cincinnati. Fubar says, love an old Kenwood, but have many of the Radio Shack DX series. That was very popular. I mean, a lot of people purchased radios through Radio Shack, that's for sure. Barnaby Barry loved the Real Electric Patrolman 9 in the 70s and loved looking through the catalog issue. Oh, yeah, the catalog was a must. I think anybody that had a Radio Shack and was a geek like us, we all wanted to see that new catalog. I would harass the people at Radio Shack, working at Radio Shack here, the local store, around, I don't know, October, November, when you knew that it was that time when the catalog is supposed to come out. Oh, man. I would harass these people. Here we had I don't know if they did in the US. I guess they probably did in the US also. If you purchase more than a certain amount of Radio Shack stuff over the year, the catalog actually would be mailed to you in the mail. I remember a couple of years in a row having the Radio Shack catalog in my mailbox. That was kind of cool. You open the mailbox and say, oh, Radio Shack catalog. Woo! That and the Sears catalog for the toys. That was great to have. Eat Mover just received the RTL SDR. Does anyone run it on a Raspberry Pi with Linux? And what SDR software? I think on Linux it's GQRX, something like that is used to have it working. Fernie Deck, nice to have you on board from Playa Grande in Argentina. Nice to have you on board. Chaz Tank, double bacon cheeseburgers, man. I'm gonna have to cook me something when the show ends. I didn't eat much today, so I'm getting hungry now. Jerry DX, Radio Shack would give out their catalogs out like candy until the end, where you had to get the last one used behind the counter. Skip, come to the next Shortwave Fest and we will feed you Scrapple. Okay. What's Scrapple? Bacon wrapped scallops. Oh, really? Oh, that sounds good. I will be. Look, I kind of committed, Skip, because Sheldon and Janice are harassing me for me to go to Shortwave Fest, and I kind of caved in and actually promised that I will be at the next fest in person in 2022. So I guess we'll meet up there in person for sure. Chaz says, I thought bacon went with everything. Oh, man. A CBFT sandwich. Oven baked bacon. I always cook my bacon the same way on the stove in a pan. Fubar had is battery of the week card. Yes, I think a lot of us had the battery of the week card, of the week, of the month card, of the week. That would have been beautiful. Of the month card. That's for sure. Rufus, parchment paper, the savior of the kitchen. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. You don't want to clean up after, especially when you cook bacon and stuff like that. You don't want to spend too much time cleaning up after. Parchment paper on everything. Oh, man. Chastang, the Radio Shack wish book while eating bacon. Oh, man, that's heaven. Aerial imaging. Where did you get the stand that you have the radios when I review? I have been looking for something like that to comfortably use portables on my desk. It's a gift from one of my viewers from Australia that he 3D printed it. So it's really, really nice little gift. I got that last year, something like that. He reached out to me in an email, said, "Hey, when you're reviewing those radios and you're making videos, I'd like to have make a stand for you," and it's great. And I'm super happy for another thing is that a lot of the portable radios that I actually am using have the broken stand in the back, so now I can use that stand and put them there, which is pretty cool. Bubba Schwartz, first CB radio, the TRC 55 in 1975. Wow. Man, Matt says, we got the Radio Shack catalog in the mail. My dad bought cassette tapes from them all the time. Yeah, I had, not every year, but I have a few years, two or three different years, I had the catalog mailed. One of the things I was a sucker at Radio Shack was those. I don't know if you had that in the US, but here in Canada, we had surprise box. It cost $10. I still remember it cost $10, and it was a little brown box, and you just didn't know what was in it. It was tons of little parts of electronic parts of all sorts. Apparently, it was like the cleanup of their repair centers. They would throw all the stuff in boxes and just sell them as their surprise boxes. Oh man, I purchased so many of those. I was every time I would buy one, I was like all hyped up at going home and seeing what's in it. Actually, a friend of mine that lived on the street, it was 2 years younger than me, but he was going crazy on electronics all the time. Every time I'd purchase one, I'd call him up and say, "Hey, I purchased a surprise box. Want to come over and see what's in it?" Sometimes there was stuff that I didn't want, and I would give it to him. I was like, "Hey, you want that? I don't care. Not I don't want that." So he was super happy because we would actually look at what's inside, and then I remember one surprise box had a little transmitter, which seemed to be a transmitter. It was on 27145. One of those transmitters that probably was a part for radio control toy or something. And I looked at it and said, "Hey, it's a transmitter." And I remember we had, when a very simple thing just makes you have fun in the afternoon. He would live at the end of the street, and I would take that thing, put a little alligator clip on it, powered it with a 9-volt battery, and he would have one of the radios I would lend him, and I would say, "Do you hear me? Do you hear me?" And it was like, he would call me back on the phone, like, "Hey, I hear you, or whatever, And it was like, oh, this is so cool. Having fun with almost nothing. That was the cool part of being young sometimes. But oh man, I got so many of these little surprise boxes. So, well, RJ Dakota, when I was real young, when I was like really at the beginning of my teenage years, the Sears catalog was as good for me because I like toys. So, at 12 years old, the Radio Shack catalog was amazingly cool for the gadgets and the stuff. But at 12 years old, the Sears catalog was kind of cool for the Christmas catalog. For all the toys in it. It's like, oh man, what look at all the stuff, Jared X, I wish I could go in a time machine and go back 25 years to a Sony store and buy up all their shortwave radios, probably. Stay back in time to tune the bands, then come back. Yeah, oh man, pretty crazy. Robert Cross, yeah, I've seen some of those radios that were released in the early days. Christian Marcoux says Radio Shack catalogs and Sears for toys. Later on at age 12, it was for the women's bra section. I think little boys went to that phase of looking at catalogs for other things than just the toys at some point in their lives. God. Pop a fuse. Scrapple, everything but the oink. Joe says crapple. What, they sweep up the floor after butchering? Oh wow. Okay. described as everything but the squeal. Oh man. Fubar, JC Penney's was the spicier catalog. Bubba Schwartz is ordering a Texan PL990X with some extra bacon. Dimitri, where to buy a Commodore 64 computer for a decent price? Do you have any Goodwill stores or those stores where, like, they get stuff that people donate to and sell back at very, very low prices? We got a couple of them here. My Commodore computer, because I had the original Commodore, but I sold it at one point. And one day, I went to a Village des Valeurs, which is kind of a Goodwill store, and they had two Commodore 128s and a Commodore 64 for $5 each. So look at that, because online they're expensive, and they shouldn't be. There are so many of them sold. Go to Goodwill stores, and if they don't have them, go regularly. Always go back several times a week. And that is going to be interesting. You should find one for a low price if you do that. Go also to any flea market. The flea markets are great places for that. If you have garage sales around you, I got my Amiga 500 on a garage sale for $20, to give you an idea. So, but you have to check constantly, and one day one will pop up. Or there's Autocrafter's Kitchen. A bacon sandwich with any mustard is absolute best. Lafayette Radio, absolutely heat mover. Man, any radio fan remembers that. Canadian Radio TV guy just getting back from macaroni and chicken fingers with the family. You need to start doing these shows so they work around my dinner. KW1161, greetings from warm and windy Tucson, Arizona. Vince says, as a moderator, I have to remind everyone that this is a radio show, not a cooking show, so that I will go fry bacon and come back soon. Bubba says, I had Radio Shack touch tone dialer. I modify it to sound like change money, sound dropping in the phone, and make free pay phone calls. Oh, man. Bad kid. So Chastang says Radio Shack called it a mystery box in the US. Okay. Here it was in French, they called it boîte à surprise. So it's that's why I call it a surprise box. They might have called it a mystery box in English even here, but I just translated the French language name that I had on it. What else do we have? Fubar had a few Lafayette shortwave radios. Just gave a buddy a Lafayette World Band receiver. Wow. Chastang, Sears, and JCPenney Christmas catalogs were huge. Oh, yeah, those were big. Really big. KW1161 worked at Radio Shack for 3 years, but don't remember the mystery box. Yeah, I purchased a lot of them. I probably purchased at least a dozen of them over years. And, they were mystery boxes. So you either were super happy and excited, or sometimes you had one that you opened up and you were like, okay, that's kind of a boring box. I remember once getting one, and it was a very boring box, and thought, okay, I have another $10. I'm gonna go get the second one that they had in the store, and I'm gonna take that one. And that one was great. RJ88 Dakota. The mystery boxes, by the way, were really far in time. The mystery boxes were, I'd purchased that probably around 1980, mid 1980s, even earlier, 1982, 83. Later, the Radio Shack didn't have them anymore. They were there for a while, and then they disappeared for some reason. Maybe because they found a better way to, sell parts or whatever. But it was at the beginning of when I went to Radio Shack, really knowing what I was doing. And so I would say that I purchased most mystery boxes between 1982 ish until 1985 ish, somewhere around there. But after, I remember going to Radio Shack in the late 80s, early 90s, and they didn't have that anymore. Paul says, my 70s mineral collection from Sears Christmas catalog had a nice piece of natural asbestos in it. Wow. I remember the first physics set that I had, which was perfect because they let us play with fire. It's like, yeah, that wouldn't pass today. It's like, yeah, I still remember. I took the little thing out, and they were like, I think we have some. My mom was going nuts because she was always like, we don't have any rubbing alcohol ever. It's like, no, I'm using it as fuel for my little burner to make the experiments. It was just so funny. It was like, yeah, I'm using it all. But I mean, I was like, 13 playing with fire. It was like, yeah. My brother had a chemistry set, and I remember one day he was bored. He was mixing up all sorts of stuff, and it started doing all sorts of reaction and smelling bad. And we were like going crazy. Where the hell are we going to throw that away? And it's like, you think about it today, and it's like, yeah, I don't think today these sets are as dangerous as those were in the past. I don't remember where or when we talked about it, but there was a discussion about a soldering iron. And I was like, yeah, I don't think today that they want you at the age of, 12 to play around with a soldering iron that much. Hey, it was normal for me. At 10, I had one in my hands, and I would just build little stuff. Nope, Sears does not exist in Canada anymore. My mom would purchase our clothes through the catalog. She was a big fan of having buying stuff over the catalog. Pretty crazy. Papa Fuse was grateful you plugged an external speaker into the FT450, since I always wondered how it would really sound. I do the same on my IC 7300. Yeah, I think it's for pretty much every tabletop radio that exists, whether a transceiver or a radio itself. Any desktop receiver, transceiver, they all need a better speaker. They all have crappy speakers. They should almost, take like $50 off and say, so it's $50 off. You just need to buy an external speaker, because they really need a better speaker. All of them are bad. Even my ICOM ICRD 500 doesn't sound good with its internal speaker. an external speaker really, really improves things so much. The export, do you have a Malachite or do you think they are worth to buy? I was this close yesterday to buying a Chinese clone Malachite to test and play around with. The original is known to be the best one to get and the one that everybody should get. But I was so curious about the Chinese one because I hear mixed reports. I was very close to purchasing one yesterday. Are they worth to buy? I don't know. I don't know until I would test one myself. Caveman, it's nice to have you here. Take care. Oops, lost my spot again. Take care, Robert Cross, and stay safe. 2 a.m. in the morning. Yep, time to go to bed. Thanks for showing up. The export still has this Commodore 64 from 1985 with its 800 baud modem. It was like a 1200 baud. They had the 300 baud, then they had the 1200 baud modem. Hey, I was the fancy guy. I had a 2400 baud modem on my Commodore, an external modem with a adapter for serial to whatever port that is in the Commodore, which was, by the way, the fastest that the Commodore could handle. You cannot go faster than 2400 because the port and the speed of the computer couldn't handle faster than that. Yarabamba, hey, I've never found a shortwave radio in a value village or thrift store. I had more luck in garage sales. I've seen so many computers like Commodore stuff, but I have never seen, I don't go that often, I gotta say, but I have never seen a shortwave radio much in those stores either. Most of the shortwave radios I've seen over years also was in the garage sales, personally, here too. RJ88 Dakota sometimes plugs a larger speaker into the XH Data D808. Sounds great. Richard, full of bacon. Okay, man, ever heard the number station G03 is probably the strangest. Maybe and maybe not. I'm not sure. I've seen the E03. I've heard that one. Any shortwave garage sales and estate sales are good. Keegan says, I got a Zenith Transoceanic from 1981 at a thrift store in 2011. The thing is to make sure that you have to go there very often if you want to really really get something, because they disappear real fast. And I've seen a lot of bypass. I got somebody in my family that has one of those axe throwing businesses, where you can go and relax, and you can actually spend your time breaking stuff and throw axes and so on. They need, so for example, for that room where you break stuff, they need stuff. And what they do is they actually go to a place where all the thrift stores apparently get all the junk, and they can pick out a lot of stuff. And actually, he was telling me that there was in there quite a few interesting things that would show up that he could pick up. So some of it is actually removed before it even reaches the and I wouldn't be surprised that some people actually take stuff before it reaches the store more and more, especially with eBay and all the ways we have today of selling online all sorts of junk. Canadian Radio TV guy, the Bay is also fading away here. Kind of sad. Canada won't have their own big consumer store anymore. Yeah, I go to the Bay downtown Montreal, which is the big one here. But I had a Bay just, 20 minutes from here that shut down, and it ain't the same anymore. I remember going to the Bay downtown Montreal with my sister in the 80s, and they were selling computers. I remember the big thing for me when I was a teen, because I've always been a sucker for Christmas. Christmas for me is a time of the year that I'm a little kid again. And when I was a teen and my early adult years, I still remember the Bay downtown Montreal. The fifth floor was Christmas all the way. All of the fifth floor was Christmas. They had Christmas trees, decorations, and everything you need. It was the whole fifth floor. It was so amazing. I remember when we would get to the Christmas season, first thing that was in my mind is, okay, it's time to go to the Bay downtown and walk around and spend a few hours just going around their fifth floor Christmas. Oh man, that was so cool. Danny Shortwave. I remember woodshop class in seventh grade. They don't do that anymore. Oh man, I don't know. I remember going to I had a class where they were like, bending metal and stuff. We would like work with metal. And I still remember the teacher had no thumb because one day his thumb was crushed in one of those bending machines for the metal. And man, that was always like, whoa, okay. Already you're scared of using the machine when you're young. Everybody looked at the machine and was like, man, this is how I'm gonna die this year. And the teacher arrives and he has no thumbs, and it was like, oh boy, okay. That's scary. I'm already scared of the machine and you have no thumbs. I'm even more scared now. Kamaxi76 says Sears barely exists in the United States now. RJ88 Dakota, remember those Gilbert chemistry sets and lab accessories? Nowadays, that would be relegated to Jimmy Neutron. Oh man, it was crazy. It was crazy. Back in the days, you would do everything. You would do everything. Man. Bubba Schwartz says they used to sell airplane glue to make cars and monster kits. Later, I found it was used for other purpose. Yeah. The glue was used for other purposes, apparently. Chest tank, wood burning kits, and metal construction kits with soldering irons for Christmas. Don't see that happening much now. Yep. Danny Shortwave, one of my favorite catalogs was Edmund Scientific. I would drool for one of those Celestron telescopes. Yeah, that would have been probably a catalog I would drool over also, for sure. Our JDA Dakota says all the internal speakers in new radios are only communications quality and not for the pleasant listening. Yeah. Paul, all the fun classes, kits, chemistry sets, and etc., are all gone due to lawsuits. Yeah. I mean, yeah, somebody did go bad somewhere, that's for sure, with these things, but Ray Carlisi, I built a Lafayette Explore Air regenerative shortwave AM receiver kit when I was a kid. Cool. Yeah, Lafayette. Yeah. Oh yeah, G03 is the number stations with the gongs. Any of those number stations that had have these weird sounds with them are all weird. So weird. Rufus, 1200 baht on an Atari ST, large log distance bills for those BBS. Oh man. Danny Shortwave says, of course, I also love Denmark catalogs for mail order gadgets. I did drool over a lot of the catalogs from shortwave and radio related. I remember getting a universal radio catalog in the mail in, I guess, 1988, 89, and looking at all the stuff inside that catalog and just drooling over everything I would see. Take care, Heat Mover. Hope to see you again soon. Don't forget, guys, we are live twice a week at 7 p.m. Eastern on Wednesday night. That's 0 hours UTC. Saturdays, that's 20 hours Universal Time. Lots of fun things when we were. Bacon has left the chat. Hey, Kimberly, nice to have you here. K6YYL in California. Chastang, our school shop program had wood shop, printing and drafting, and metal shop with a small but real forger and foundry. Oh boy. Dimitri, where can I find a program for Commodore 64? So what's going to happen, Dimitri, is the Commodore 64, if you don't have a drive or anything, and anyways, even a drive is kind of almost useless because you won't find any discs or almost. This is where we purchased that little thing that he was talking about earlier, which is a little drive that actually uses an SD card. Every single program, game, and whatever that existed is all available on the internet. You download it. You download what's called the images, the Commodore 64 images, or our D64. Put that on the SD card, and the Commodore can read through that little circuit what we have. Subscribe to the Daily Bacon Facts. Welcome to the official bacon channel. Today, we will show you how to eat more bacon. Bacon the pig. I still remember my mom finding it funny because she would buy these little fish, and she had a fish bowl, and she would buy a fish. And one day, my mom says, I got a new fish. I wonder what name we could give him. And I said, call him Sushi. And she starts laughing. She says, what? Yeah, Sushi the fish. It's Sushi the fish. All right, there's Alec Croucher's Kitchen. Guilford Shortwave had a great catalog. Yeah, mix of high-end like JRC radios and more affordable like Yaesu. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff. Yeah, I remember the Guilford Shortwave. Oh, man. Sushi the fish. Stay safe, Thomas Olson. 73. Keep them. They're going to be worth a fortune, those floppy disks. Nobody makes floppies anymore around the world. So keep them. I don't have any 5 1/4, but I do have at least 200 or 300 3.5 inch discs here for the Amiga and the Atari 1040 ST. Bobby Burgess, what are some BBS browser apps for Android and Windows you can get if there are some BBS around? Bulletin board systems moved from, of course, being called with a modem on your phone line to online. So there's a lot of bulletin board systems that actually are online on the internet. If you search around, you'll see that there are some that are available. Some are even old BBSs that you would call in the 80s that have a web version now. So it's kind of interesting. Caveman, the weirdest thing about G03 was that if you listen to the recordings from over the years, you can hear how the tapes with the gongs have stretched out and decayed. Oh, man. Chris 66, CGL M8030 versus M8030 Plus, which would you recommend? Hopefully, my last intended question. You're going to get the Plus. It's only that's available right now. There's no the original one doesn't seem to exist in any form anymore. Everybody that purchases the M8030 gets the Plus version. It seems to be the one dominating now, and there isn't much of a difference between the Plus and the regular one, honestly. Chastank, as a matter of fact, I think a box of unopened VCR tapes that are blank. I have 2 VCRs here. Actually, I have a Panasonic on the floor there that I want to put back in working order because I do have probably a few dozen VHS tapes. Keegan, early Monday morning at 01:28 a.m. Central Standard Time, 7:28 UTC on 5000. I heard WWVH with WWV in the background. Cool. It's usually the other way around. Cool. Does anybody remember Laserdiscs? And I still have several Laserdisc movies. Yeah, a friend of mine had a Laserdisc player which were the size of a vinyl, but as laser movies. He had a pretty a big collection of movies, I remember. And I should ask him. I wouldn't be surprised he still has that available. Honestly, he probably still has that if it still works. I never caved into that. I moved from VHF to DVD when DVD arrived. I never had and never owned. Well, yeah, I do own one, technically. I was saying I never owned a Blu-ray player, but I technically have a Blu-ray player because one of the computers I have has a Blu-ray player on the computer, so I could technically play Blu-ray discs, but I never got into that. I was not a fan of high quality video enough to have, go into that. I like DVDs because they had extras and stuff like that, but man. What else do we have? Bubba Schwartz, I have Laserdisc player till this day with my Beatles collection. Oh, interesting. That's interesting. Cool, Keegan. Chris 66, cousin, add the Laserdisc RCA. Remember Urban Cowboy. SMZ TVDX, fais attention à toi. Any Shortwave Radio DX to connect to today's BBS, you need a terminal program like Telnet or SSH client like Putty. Yeah. You have several types of programs that will actually connect to those online. Absolutely. Oh, I didn't know you had to flip them over. Oh, man. I thought the movie was all on one side, and I never knew that you had to flip the laser disc over. Oh man, it was like, okay, when it's like, it's like a vinyl. You want to have the rest of the album, you got to flip it over. I remember getting a kick out of a Tom Petty album because it was that time of transition between tape, cassette, or vinyl and CD. And I remember halfway through the album, right in the middle, song ends, and there's you hear his voice, Tom Petty, saying, "In fairness, for those that have vinyl or tape cassette, we will now take a pause before we hear side 2." And then there's like a little pause, and he says, "Here's side 2." That's kind of funny. Dmitry says, I was watching one ham operator was using the Commodore with his radio gear to connect to International Space Station. There were a lot of there are things that the Commodores can still do. I mean, you could hook a PK232 to a Commodore 64 and decode some old style digital modes like, RTTY, NAVTEX, stuff like that. That would still work. Hey, I had the Shortwave cartridge that I wish I would have still today. When there's contests, I would actually bring up my Commodore with the SWL cartridge to decode some radio teletype. Man, Mickey Dalmage from my brother's collection. I will have many laser discs, some unopened in the player. Just more stuff. Wow. RJ Dakota says a friend of mine had a Laserdisc player and the entire surround sound system TV set was pretty good, not compatible with the Blu-ray. You did have to flip the disc over. Oh man. Pioneer Mark said he had a Pioneer that turned the Laserdisc over. So it probably had two heads, so you could read the other side, I would guess. Vince, did you install or try your tram? Temporary install mine, and it's really good. Even 10 feet high, 1 feet from a brick wall. No, I haven't yet, but I am very, very close to doing it. It's supposed to be nice at the beginning of next week. Oh, really? The laser mechanically turned over. Oh, wow. That's kind of cool. Oh, yeah, I could see that. Yeah. Oh, that's cool. Those were complex designs back in the day. Wow. So, yeah, Vince, so beginning of the week, like Monday or Tuesday, it's supposed to be quite nice. I might do a quick install in the front balcony in between the two loops to test it out a little bit. So I'll keep you updated into that for sure. Man. The export, any thoughts on an upgrade from the ICOM R30? What exactly would you want to do? Because it depends what you want to do. If you want to have a wideband radio or not, or it's going to be interesting. For shortwave, one thing for sure is that a decent portable shortwave is even better than an ICOM R30 on reception of shortwave signals. Estela Garcia, nice to have you here. Chas Tank, about 2 years ago, came across some folks that had the huge projection screen TV, the one with 3 colored lights projecting onto the screen. I hadn't seen one in like 1983. Here, before I had my LCD TVs, I had a Sony 50-inch retro projecting TV. Hey, Zachary, nice to have you on board. Nice to have you here. It was a huge TV, and I remember when that TV dated back to the 80s. When it broke down, dang, that thing was like, I dismantled it in order to actually bring it down and throw it out because it was so heavy that it was just crazy heavy. But man, that was something. Carl, RGB, yes. Oh man, it's pretty crazy. I had that Sony lasted 20 some years, and then I moved. So it broke down in 2000 something. It broke down in 2008 or 9, somewhere around there. That's when I started having gonna be having some other TVs. Zach, oh, you got one of those M1 MacBooks. Cool. Cool, Vince. On regarde ça en temps et lieu. It'd be installed temporarily in the balcony for now, but who knows? Maybe when I finally install it real well, we can check that out, Vince. Would be nice. And talk radio and have a few beers at the same time. So cool. Robert Shine, nice to have you on board. N3VXT. What else do we have? Yeah, radio. So the RWM station for time is on 4996 and 9996, but if you listen in on single sideband without a CW mode, you will listen in often on 4995 or 9995 upper sideband, for example, to get the time pips. Zach, it's weird having a new computer that's so new and fast. I've been using one from 2011 the last couple of years. Yeah, it's automatically really a big, huge difference. It's like when I moved to the gaming PC that I have here. You click stuff and it's like, boop, it's there. It's like, whoa, this thing is so fast suddenly. When you move from an old my Toshiba was powerful, but I mean, it was from 2014-ish. So it's like 7 years old now. It's the one running the SDR here. It's a Core i5. When I purchased it, it was a real fast PC, but computers get old, and that's where you see that newer computers are just so fast. Hey, Michael Thompson, nice to have you on board, my friend, and thank you. He's the guy behind these speakers. Thanks for presenting me these nice little gifts, and hope you are well. Bubba Schwartz says my first TV was a Sony from 1974, 13-inch, lasted 15 years till picture tube blew out. Man. It's on 14996 as well. Yes, absolutely. Sorry, guys. Yes, Michael. Right next to me. Kevin, ever do any DRM decoding? I've tried briefly using Dream and was unsuccessful. You need to have a really, really, really good signal to noise ratio for that to work well. I've tried a few times, had very, very bad experience with it. And I have the software now, which should technically work, but for some reason I can't have it working. It gives me an error message on all my PCs. So I don't know exactly what's happening with that. Matt says, if I'm listening to RWM and SSB, I prefer 9997 LSB because you get less URM from WWV. Yeah, absolutely. That is a good tip to avoid the interference. The last CRT TV that I had was a Sony 26-inch, and I threw it away. It was still in good working condition, but I threw it away at some point because it's like, I don't want that huge 100-pound thing anymore. Sometimes I kind of regret a little bit because the old computers like the Commodore looked better there on an old CRT than it does on a LCD TV. So sometimes I'm like, yeah, maybe I should have kept it. But hey, those things are huge and so heavy. Oh yeah, Danny, Shortwave, absolutely. Solid state drives make huge differences in load times. Absolutely. What else do we have? Yeah, mine was a Sony Trinitron 26. Yeah, with your work, Vince. Yes, absolutely. You are outside all the time, even in winter time. It's the way it works. So no problem. We'll check that out, Vince. Merci beaucoup de ton offre. Canadian Radio TV guy says, speaking of CRTs, I think I have an old 1966 black and white. Wow, B and K. Sorry, model 465 CRT tester arriving from eBay. Wow. Okay. Zach says, I find it funny how CRTs displayed blacks better than on LCDs. And we kind of forgot CRTs did that with, yeah, CRTs are kind of, it's simple. It's the way that they worked with their, that gun, the electron gun that just, lights up a phosphor pixel. They were very, very different design. And it's funny because it's weird how old computers and old game consoles look so much better on those older CRTs, simply because the picture was crappier, but the way that they were designed, it actually just looks better. And it looks much more choppy, blocky on a LCD screen. Oh, man. Pretty crazy. What's happening tomorrow, Australia, at 6:15 p.m.? Hey, Sheldon Harvey. Nice to have you on board from Greenfield Park, Quebec. The man working hard to bring us the March edition of the Messenger from the CIDX Club. A lot of the older, there's one thing though, apart from, so of course, plasma TVs were crazy problematic for noise on shortwave. But a lot of the older CRTs often had buzzing, TV buzzing, going through some of the frequencies of the shortwave spectrum. Maybe I'm lucky, but I seem to have pretty good luck in the noise level. The Sony LCD here doesn't really make a lot of noise. That Toshiba is super quiet on shortwave. And my new Samsung 70-inch in the living room is also rather quiet in general. It does make a little bit of noise, but it's not that bad, actually, honestly. No problem, Vince. We're going to check that out. Keegan, my dad and I used to have a Sony Trinitron TV. My memory of the TV goes back to early 2000s. Quebec Z76. Remember one time my friend bought a bunch of computer stuff from Best Buy, and the cashier forgot to ring up a Sony 17-inch CRT. He didn't notice till he got home, so he got a free monitor. Oh, wow. I remember buying a Panasonic CRT monitor, 17-inch, when I moved here. So in 2000, I needed a new monitor because I had an old Daewoo or like those weird, or Daytech, or one of those weird Korean brands, which was 14-inch, color 14-inch. And I was using my desktop PC with that small 14-inch screen. And when I started doing my tech duties, I was like, I need something better than that. And the funniest thing is, 2 or 3 weeks after I I arrived here, the 14-inch monitor blew up. It almost caught fire. And so I had to go and get a new monitor. And I was looking at, something like a 17-inch. Because at the year 2000, there were still CRT monitors. You would pretty much buy a CRT. And I went to Staples near here, and which is called Bureau en Gros in French. And they had a nice Panasonic. I always loved Panasonic because I always thought it was really good quality. They had a nice 17-inch Panasonic, but it was like $600. So I was like, man, that is expensive. So the guy, the guy gets here, he sees me and says, "Oh, well, can I help you, sir?" It's like, "Yeah, I'm looking at that monitor, but I find 600 is a little, steep of a price." He looks at me and he says, "Okay, I'm not supposed to tell you this, but here's the thing. In the back, we received a shipment of the newer model of 17-inch Panasonics. It's the same thing as this, but except that instead of selling for $600, it's $399. It's $400." So he looked at me and said, "If you're willing to wait 20 minutes, I will get one for you." And I said, "Oh, wow, cool." So finally, I got that CRT. I think it was a Panasonic E70 or something like that. And it was it became my monitor. And I was so happy that guy told me, "Hey, we got some new ones. They're less expensive." Oh man. RG88 Dakota TV is made a lot better nowadays. The older set CRTs gave off considerable radiation. Yeah. The and there was a lot in the 70s and even part of the 80s. Um the CRTs weren't that great. A lot of TVs were actually breaking down quite fast. I remember my parents going through at least 3 different TVs in like 10 years because they just didn't last. But that Sony Trinitron that I had, 26-inch, was like, when I threw it out, it was at least 15 years old, and that thing just didn't even show signs of getting older. It was just working. It would probably still be working if I kept it. Mark says, "I called plasma TV the plasma generator. I cannot DX at all when it runs." Yeah, plasma TVs were bad for shortwave for sure. The export, my 680 has a kind of wobbly tuner dial. Is yours the same, and is there a fix? You mean the button that you tune has kind of a because mine is fine. Mine had one problem. My 680 had one problem over time, and it's the encoder that jammed, and we had to open it and unjam the encoder. And actually, Fastload took a look at it, and he put some sewing machine oil in it, and it was still stiff, but it works. I don't know. Canadian Radio TV guy says, "When my parents moved into our house in the summer of 2003, when I was born, we had an old Sony Trinitron propped up on a love seat in the living room." Oh, man. Zach, I read somewhere the first HD TV broadcast was a BBC TV movie in 1994. In 94, HD was only 500 something pixels. Yeah. Well, the first, because the definition of HD technically is 720, at least 720 lines, which is the basic definition of what HD should be. That's crazy. Vince PL600, does anyone have the same problem as me? The clock gets like 15 minutes a month since it's new. 15 minutes, yeah, that's a lot, but none of the radios I have here keep their time really well. Honestly, most of them have, 15 minutes is a lot, but I would say that if I leave most of my radios, that would be an interesting experiment for the shortwave show. Reset the clock on all the radios, and check after a week or a month which ones were far off. So I have so many radios here that I don't notice it too much, because sometimes one radio will be 3 or 4 months before I use it. And often what I'll do is I just, have to change the batteries anyway, so I'll reset the clock. But it's possible. These clocks are not super accurate on most radios. And it's not just a Texan radio thing. It's every single radio I have, the clocks are iffy. Yeah, there is a difference, Kamexi 76. Absolutely. It's not as bad to watch those new LCD TVs. Where's Wizard of Oz? Nice to have you here, Ozzy from Wisconsin, KC9 TVN. Tom DXer says, when I got back into shortwave 2 years ago, got rid of my plasma TV. Yeah, a lot of people did that, or having huge problems. Imagine when you're stuck with a neighbor that has a plasma TV and there's nothing you can do about it. Pretty crazy. Cool, Paul. It's a very nice publication. It's really, really worth it, honestly, for the CIDX messenger. Carlos Aguila, nice to have you on board. Danny Shortwave, I only wish today's TV would have picture-in-picture. I still have the Vizio 37-inch CD with PIP. Yeah, my picture-in-picture that I have on my TVs are from the TV box, not the TV itself. Mike Thornton, nice to have you here from Arizona, WC0L/7. D-Export vector monitors, remember those? Yeah, there's a lot of different things. Michael Thompson says his clock is slow on the 660. So, yeah. Yep. Carlos Aguila, XH Data says XH Data is off about 1 minute per month, 2 seconds per day. Dan, nice to have you here from Ohio, N8WJZ. So, hey guys, been on for 2 hours and 44 minutes. I'm a little tired, so I'll be taking it easy and resting for the rest of the night, checking out a little bit of radio stuff. We will be back on Saturday with another show, and hope that you enjoy that also. So Saturday at 3 p.m., 20 hours Universal Time. And always cool to see everybody here. And Mike Thornton says, seems radio clocks are not accurate. Even his ICOM 7300 clock has the same problem. So it's interesting because they're simple devices, but I think they're like really, really cheaply made, because even LCD clocks from 20 years ago held time better than a lot of the clocks today. So take care, everybody. I love you all. It's always cool to have everybody on board. And have to go cook bacon. Yes. So don't forget the Facebook group if you want to continue. And if I hear something interesting, I'll let you know on the group. So we'll be back Saturday, 3 p.m. Eastern. And that's 20 hours Universal Time this coming Saturday. And for those that love VHF, UHF, we have a special show, well, the first Sunday of each month on the VHF, UHF channel on Sunday. Take care, stay safe, and love you all. And by request by RJDA Dakota, Moscow Nights. And Michael Thompson also requesting Moscow Nights. So we will say goodbye with Radio Moscow, Moscow Nights. Stay safe, everybody. Hope you enjoyed the show. And we'll continue Saturday to have fun. And maybe tune the bands and check out what's there. Chase Pirates. Stay safe, everyone. Brings me back in my teenage years, I can tell you that. Take care, everybody. Stay safe. Stay safe, everybody. See you Saturday.